All right, everybody, welcome aboard here. Michael Cohen here with you, Sports Talk Nation, and just some quick thoughts here on the Keith Hernandez jersey retirement ceremony. One of the best ceremonies the Mets have had for any one player in a very, very long time. And I remember the Mike Piazza ceremony a couple of years ago when they retired his jersey. That was great. Obviously, the Jerry Koosman retirement ceremony last year was long overdue, and even this one of Keith Hernandez getting his jersey retired, very much long overdue. And you got to give a lot of credit to Steve Cohen and company for getting this done. I mean, for years, this has been a franchise that, under the Wilpons, very rarely recognized its own history. And it's not a bad history. Yes, the Mets have been known for a lot of goofy things. They have had a lot of bad moments. Obviously, like collapses like we saw in 2007, 2008. A dead period in the mid-'70s, as we all know, mid to late 70s, as we all know. There have been a lot of bad times in Mets history. But there have also been a lot of great moments in Mets history, and there have been a lot of great players who have played here in New York with the New York Mets throughout their 60-year history. And I like the fact that Keith Hernandez really emphasized the history of the franchise, mentioning, hey, look, it's been around for 60 years. This is not a baby franchise anymore. This is a franchise that's been around for quite some time and has its established history, and it's very, very true. You go from Tom Seaver to obviously Keith Hernandez, Jerry Koosman, Mike Piazza, you go Gary Carter, you go all these guys, David Wright, all these guys who have had impact on this franchise. And there have been a lot of great players. There have been a lot of great moments that have occurred through this history. And I like the fact that it's now finally getting recognized, and you feel this change of culture, which I've talked about many times before with regards to what the Steve Cohen ownership has been like for the last now 18 months now. That he has been the owner of this team, and it just feels different. And you felt it yesterday. Even watching on television, you could feel, just the energy, the passion, the love that the fans had. 43,000-plus people packing into Citi Field on a beautiful Saturday afternoon against Miami. I mean, they came out in big droves for this. It was really it's not just usually with players. It's kind of a generational thing. Hey, I remember when you have like certain generation of fans remember a guy when they played. This, with Keith Hernandez, spans different generations because you have the generation of fans who grew up with him as a player, and then you have now this generation that has now recognized him over the last 20-plus years now as a broadcaster in the television booth for this team. So he is always going to be a recognizable face from that standpoint, and again, very much deserving of that honor. 11-time Gold Glove winner, 6 of them with the Mets, World Series champion. You can go on and on. He has had a tremendous career on the field and obviously in the broadcast booth with the New York Mets. And let's be honest, folks, it's time to get this man to Cooperstown. You agree? It's time to get this man to Cooperstown. It really is. And it's also apropos that the game ends with a little magic, of course, in that 10th inning. Mets down 4-3. They get a couple of runs, and very eerily similar to 1986. A little roller, not down the first baseline, but now this time down the third baseline by Thomas Nido. Gets under the glove of the third baseman, Brian Anderson, and that brings in the tying run, and then Nido would come in to score on the error, the bouncer by Brandon Nimmo back to the pitcher who threw the ball way down the first baseline, and that brings in Nido with the winning run, and the Mets win it in dramatic fashion, 86-like fashion. I saw a tweet earlier this morning saying that the Mets hadn't had a victory like that, where they had a game end with 2 errors since 1986. Think about that for a second. A little symmetry there on the day where they put number 17 in the rafters forever. So my question to you now, Met fans, is this: who is next? Who should go up to the rafters next? Should the Mets continue to retire some more numbers? Should they say, okay, you know what, we got Jerry Koosman, Keith Hernandez up there, both of them who should have been up there years ago. We can take a break right now as far as retiring numbers are concerned. But who should be next? Should it be, I'll throw some names out there, should it be Darryl Strawberry, who was a 7-time All-Star with the New York Mets? Now, granted, I know he's had all of his personal issues off the field, for that matter, and it didn't end that well with the Mets. I understand that, but the guy was part of that 86 team, a big part of that turnaround for that team. Should number 18 go into the rafters? That's one name to consider. Obviously, David Wright's going to get a lot of clout. Granted, the Mets never won a World Series with Wright here. They did get to one when he was at the end of his career, obviously against the Kansas City Royals, but a 7-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove winner, faced the franchise for about a decade there in the 2000s into the 2010s. He is someone, number 5, is going to get a heavy consideration at some point, you have to imagine, to have his number retired. Jose Reyes, one of the best base stealers in baseball history, certainly in Mets history for that matter, is he somebody that is going to get consideration. I think another name that is probably underrated that could get some thoughts? Maybe like someone like Mookie Wilson. Obviously, his hit in Game 6, notwithstanding in the World Series in 1986, but he was a solid player for the Mets for a number of years. I'm looking at his numbers here. Over 1,000 hits in his career with the Mets, over 1,112 hits as a Met. Someone who probably could get consideration, possibly have number one retired in his name. So those are just a few names to throw out there. I know a lot of people are going to mention Dwight Gooden, again, another individual like Strawberry who had a lot of issues off the field, for that matter. Do the Mets, look past transgressions, put number 16 up in the rafters. So those are just a few names to consider, and I'm sure there's obviously many more names to throw out there that could be potentially seeing their number up there in the rafters, maybe like a John Franco for that matter. But comment below. Tell me, who do you think should be the next player the Mets should consider retiring their number for, if they should retire any numbers for that matter. Leave that below. Leave your thoughts. And what did you think about the Keith Hernandez jersey retirement ceremony? One of the best ceremonies the Mets have put together in a very, very long time. You can feel the energy, you can feel the passion, and you can feel the love, for that matter, for that entire ceremony. It was kind of nice to see also two things there at the end of the ceremony. One, Keith throwing from first base, the golden first base, which I'm sure he's keeping, the golden first base down to his brother, kind of going back to all those days when they were kids growing up in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, when they were playing baseball. And obviously, Don Mattingly, former Yankee first baseman, coming out to greet Keith Hernandez. Of course, Mattingly now the manager of the Miami Marlins. I know that we always talk about interleague play, but, it would have been something if interleague play was around during that time. When I thought about this, when I saw them greeting each other, if the Yankees and Mets had played one another in the 80s, that would have been something to see back then. But two of the best first basemen to play in New York, greeting each other there at the end of that ceremony. It was just fabulous. Fantastic ceremony. Again, leave your thoughts below, folks. We'll talk to you next time.